Gal, thank you for joining me today. We are discussing The Iron Claw. It's a brand new film that just opened up in theaters just a few days ago. It's the true story of the Von Erich brothers, the Von Erich family, who were professional wrestlers in the 1980s, and they trained and wrestled under the guidance and coaching of their father, who was a wrestler before them, and their goal is to win a title for the family's legacy. Now, I wanted to start with the actors in this film. We have the leads, Zac Efron and Jeremy Allen White, who are the two top billed actors in the movie, who play two of the brothers, uh, Carrie and Kevin. And we also have, there's four brothers in the film. Harris Dickinson and Stanley Simmons play David and Mike and complete the ensemble of the four brothers. What did you think of the four brothers' portrayals and their dynamic overall?
Yeah, so first of all, I saw this one, I guess 2 weeks ago now. I saw it at the like AMC Early Access Dolby screening with our good friend Alex Helmer, actually. Um, and
Shout out to
I really
Alex.
loved the movie, even a lot more than I thought it would, even if it already looked great. And a lot of that is, the brotherly dynamic. That's the center of the movie, and I really love their dynamic because um, it was kind of shown to you at full fledged, like how they were sort of in everything together. They were doing so much together. Zac Efron is, I think a lot of people would agree, it's like the best he's ever been, probably in his career. And Jeremy Allen White, also great. Harris Dickinson, I thought was particularly terrific. I mean, this guy's like he's in everywhere now, like Triangle of Sadness. I just saw him in another show, Murder at the End of the World. But he's super talented and he gives a really good energy in the movie. And their dynamic really stands out because they're super wholesome and supportive of each other, which when I just like seeing the marketing for the movie, I don't know, I thought wrestling, so I thought their dynamic would probably be a lot more hardcore and all that. But most of the, I guess, the toxic masculinity themes of the movie come through the dad character, which we'll get into more. But definitely Zac Efron, since he's the oldest of the living brothers when the movie starts. And I'm the oldest. He's the oldest of four in the movie. I'm the oldest of three boys. So definitely the movie hit hard for me watching it. And there's a part in like 30 minutes in where they go to a party and Zac Efron's sitting on the couch and he just yells, "Look at my beautiful brothers." And I was just so touched by his performance. And even when they were just hanging out together and getting burgers. And so besides them, I also do think Holt McCallany was absolutely incredible as the dad. Like in a perfect world, um, supporting actor buzz. I don't know, but he was incredible. Like there was something almost like J.K. Simmons in Whiplash like uh, of his performance because he's not as harsh, but you can tell from their conversations that they don't feel necessarily comfortable saying no to him, and because of his failure to get a championship, he's now pushing all of them uh, to bring the Von Erichs to glory, and that's
Yeah.
sort of the big clash of the movie is that he wants them to excel in wrestling. They just want to be together no matter what, the brothers. So that's so powerful that the movie depicts it that way.
How he portrayed his character, as well as his dialogue, the way his character was written, and certain tone that he presented to his children. It came off to me as this isn't the first time where he's speaking like this to them, so he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have to raise his tone above a certain level in order to present his sternness to them. All he had to do was speak words to them, very definitive statements to them, and he got his point across. Don't do this, do this. And even the one scene that stood out to me is the lunch table scene, where he's very directly telling his children how they rank on
Oh
his
yeah.
favorite list. And I think every family dynamic has, whether you're told directly or not, children within the family will always rank themselves.
Mhm.
I think I'm the favorite or you're the favorite or whatever the case is. My siblings tell me I have middle child syndrome. And I didn't
Are
honestly
you the
didn't.
middle child?
I am the middle child.
Okay.
And I honestly had no idea what middle child syndrome was up until when they started saying that. Um, so I think all children really will feel that scene if they have siblings because um, that's a toxic environment to be in. Your parents telling you how you rank, and it can change too. He even said to them that dynamic can change, and the ranking system can change
Yeah, that can
depending on
change.
your
Exactly.
accomplishments.
If maybe not J.K. Simmons and Whiplash, maybe more of a Will Smith and King Richard kind of
Yeah,
vibe,
yeah,
because sometimes
coach.
they just because sometimes he does say I'm proud, but sometimes he acts more of a coach and a manager than just a
That's right.
supportive father. But even with that toxic dynamic in the house, I do think as the movie depicts it, the brothers are actually pretty healthy towards one another. Like even if one gets another accomplishment that the other wanted, they usually end up talking it out,
They do.
which was sweet. But again, the way that Sean Durkin like directs the movie, when it starts, like the first maybe even half, I don't know, I wasn't checking my watch, but the first act of the movie is sort of like this classic sports biopic with a lot of needle drops, a lot of exciting editing. The wrestling feels cool and glamorous, and when they win, you feel triumphant with them. But as the movie keeps on going, the wrestling feels less glamorous and triumphant, and the sports matters less, and all that matters is the pain that Kevin Von Erich is going through, and just because the trauma is and the grief is just lingering with him after he experiences it. And I think even if the movie starts out entertaining, it eventually becomes relentless in how it depicts grief, especially um, when you lose someone so suddenly at a young age. If you know what happened with the Von Erichs.
I looked them up after the fact. I didn't know their story going into the movie, but after I had to look this up because I just couldn't
Oh,
believe
absolutely, yeah, me too.
that this happened to so many of them, and only to discover that the true story is even worse. I had no idea that there was even a sixth brother in the family, and the story only depicts five of them really. One who passed away, the eldest passed away at a young age of 5, so they only focused on 4 in the film, but there really were 6 brothers.
They do mention Jack Jr., who was the first one who, like the oldest one who passed away, which I guess it makes sense because by the time the movie starts, all the brothers are at least in their 20s, right?
Yeah,
Or like the youngest one, Stanley Simons, Mike is
Mike.
like in high school or whatever. So that made sense. And then as far as the other brother, I didn't know it. And I didn't know there was one until I saw this interview where Sean Durkin said he felt it was one too many tragedies for the movie to handle. That there was
Yeah,
already so much going for it in that realm. Which, while I agree with, that might draw from people who love this story or wrestling. They maybe would have been like, "Oh, who is this person? Where was this person?"
yeah.
But it was already like enough of a heart crushing movie for me that another brother definitely would have been a lot.
I think that they handled the way they paced out the events with the brothers very well, especially with what happened with David because he wasn't even around. He was on the other side of the planet. So we're kind of. I was actually a little upset that I'm like, why didn't we see anything with David happen? That we were seeing it from their perspective, living in a time without communication, only really telephone. They weren't able to really connect with him. So we were seeing it from the Von Erichs family perspective back in the US.
And I kind of love Harris Dickinson gives such a larger than life performance so well. And then, like you said, from Kevin's perspective, they just kind of say goodbye and he comes home and his dad tells him the news and he just never sees him again. How do you make sense of that? How do you
Yeah.
like, because you can tell that as brothers, they're also best friends of each other. So in that way, That's why I said I think it just depicts the brutality and the suddenness of grief and how that can stay with someone forever. But again, with the subject of like the real story, um, Kevin Von Erich has said that he's seen the movie and he loved it, and he loved Zac Efron's portrayal. So even if they had left out another brother, it's good to hear that they had his blessing. And apparently, they
Yeah.
also had, if you're a wrestling fan, I don't know, but I forget the name of the guy who was the wrestling consultant, but apparently they managed to work with this consultant who's actually in the world of wrestling to make the scenes look really accurate and intricate. I'm not sure. I bet there were stuntsmen, but you know what I mean. Like make it seem accurate to what you would actually see happen in a wrestling ring and not like
Mhm.
be criticized from actual wrestling fans.
I actually heard that they did all their own stunts.
Oh, they did. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard Zac Efron and Jeremy Allen White all did their own stunts in the ring, which is amazing to see. Yeah. I guess they didn't get that, that buff for nothing. They needed to
For
they
real,
needed
for
to use
real.
it. Yeah. Kevin um was able to sort of step away from that a little bit because he was the only one of the family that lived a separate life with his wife. Um, Now Lily James plays Kevin's wife Pam, and the other brothers, Kevin's brothers, sort of got stuck in that toxic environment as whereas Kevin was able to step away. How did you think they handled that in terms of like the character portrayal of Pam, their relationship, Kevin's relationship with Pam as well?
Well, first of all, love Lily James in anything. I think she played the part really well. And I'm sure you might watch this in a bunch of other sports biopics, and you could like see that she maybe plays a similar role as the wife of the main character in a biopic. But I didn't mind it. I thought she was also very much shown as an important part of his life and his decisions and his family. Um, but I do think an interesting theme of the movie is fate, because they've always been aware of this Von Erich curse, that as long as their last names are Von Erich, there's going to be a series of tragedies. That's the rumor. That's the superstition. And how much are they able to make their own fate? How much are they able to determine their own fate when they've been raised in such a toxic environment, like you said, and that their father's aspirations and the weight of his sort of looming presence impacts them so much. Not to mention, like some of the other brothers, like Carrie and Mike, were plagued with depression for years after suffering injuries, and so on. And I guess Kevin managed to, I don't know if escape that necessarily, but he was the only one who survived and was able to like, I don't know if we can say hopeful because the ending is still pretty sad, but as we know, he's still alive and he's managed to forge a family with his kids who I think his kids are now like twins who are wrestlers. I think I read that they're also wrestling, but I definitely think it like determines that so like their father's upbringing is what the movie is saying determined their downfall, sort of, and like how much are we able to escape that because there was so much going against them, even if they were on top of the world for the movie, what feels like moments, but these glorious moments.
That's right. Yeah, they go through different periods. I think it runs through 15 years of their life and their career. Um, going back to the depression that Carrie felt. It started, when he couldn't do his own dream. He couldn't follow his own dream with the Olympics, and he
Yeah.
was told by his father, "This is what you should do. You should follow our dream and jump in the ring with your brothers." And a part of him definitely felt like this is going to be great because I get to be with my brothers all the time. But another part of him definitely felt like he couldn't accomplish his own dream. He had this looming depression throughout the whole film. Like you said, with the injuries as well, and the Von Erich curse um, was mentioned so many times in the movie, and it makes me think that just constantly having that negative outlook on life can't be good for anybody. They mentioned the Von Erich curse as if it's like, well, there's nothing we can really do about it. So whenever something bad happens, it's just the Von Erich curse, which is a terrible way to live.
Yeah, because then that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, I guess. Um, but yeah, absolutely. Like what you said about the brothers, when he said like Carrie was happy to spend time with his brothers. I think that's one of the main themes of the movie. At the end of the day, they just wanted to be together no matter what. They just wanted to be having fun, hanging out. That was, I think, at the end of the day, that's what was most important to Kevin, but to all of them was being a brother, which is why the ending scene is like devastating. If you remember the dialogue that he has at the end, but I think definitely the dad's aspirations that he's probably had since they were incredibly young, and since he had this failure, and he now needs to mend his own failure of getting a championship. And like I said, they sort of need to they sort of can't say no to him because he's incredibly strict and toxic, and just says we have to do this, we have to be champions, and we have to be the best. So definitely that's what I meant when I said that what the brothers want and what the dad wants for them definitely clash throughout the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned the dialogue, mentioned a few particular moments of important dialogue in the film, but there are so many uh really small moments that have so much impact. And one of them specifically that I'm thinking about was when Kevin and Pam first met, and you can kind of Kevin just comes out of a ring. He just was in the ring that night. He's tired. He's sweaty. It shows the physical demand that wrestling requires from them, and at the same time, his response to Pam, knowing even seeing that she has interest at the moment, he almost has zero interest because he doesn't, and his all of his dialogue is, it seems like it's coming from his father. Well, what do you want? What do you want? I want to win a championship. You should say this. He doesn't even he almost doesn't even know how to approach a woman because his whole life at this point has been structured for him. And I feel like that's such an important uh, dynamic between the two, and it really shows what who Kevin is at that moment in the movie.
I also want to say, because I'm reading about this, and that you're right, that they would film like one take wrestling matches, the cast themselves, in front of a live audience. I'm reading here they turned a furniture store into the Dallas Sportatorium. It's a long word. And the name of the consultant that I was talking about, his name is Chavo Guerrero. So yeah, the movie has a lot of really interesting long takes that I like. Like if you remember Holt McCallany making this speech to the audience um, about like his son's destinies in the ring. So I wouldn't say it's like haunting, but it definitely lingers on you that like maybe we're focused on this because something bad is about to happen, even if it seems triumphant from the audience's perspective, which definitely when bad things do happen, it definitely like crushes you along with Kevin.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. There's another moment of Kevin's that I don't want to spoil too much, but his match with Ric Flair.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Ric Flair. Okay,
Yeah.
he was so funny, but he has like one scene, but
Yeah, he
whenever he
does.
was just talking, he was so funny.
Yeah. That scene was so powerful because Kevin it was the only moment in the film that Kevin really lost all control and let his emotions
Yes, yes.
completely take over. And that scene, like you were saying, the physical demand of wrestling and the power of wrestling, it really show is showcased in that scene there where he went off script, and they improvise in the moment because that's really what wrestling is. It's putting on a show, it's performance, but it's also sport. It's physically demanding, but it's also, because it's a performance, you're also improvising on the spot, and all of that was showcased in that scene. And that was a high intensity scene, and we're seeing it in one way, in one from one perspective, oh my God, look what he's doing. But then fast forward to the locker room scene immediately after, and
Oh
uh
yeah.
he loved it. He's just like, that was fantastic. That was a great show, great performance, right? And it really shows us the side of wrestling that we don't see watching from television.
Yeah, I remember that scene very well, and you could feel that he was enraged in that. But yeah, we could talk for a while about Zac Efron in this movie because you could tell here that he's a very versatile performance. Again, I love that he gave it so much physically. Um, but he handles the difficult scenes very well, but he's also, again, like he manages to be sort of like this funny, um, very like enjoyable guy who, again, just loves being around his brothers, really. And he and Lily James were also really great together. I thought they had excellent chemistry.
Those last couple of scenes, I feel like you would have had to sit down and discuss those, how those scenes are going to play out, because they can affect different people differently. Like you
Mhm.
said, Carrie's note and that scene following right after, people who have been affected by suicide could take that in a completely different direction. So that's something that definitely needed to be discussed and approached in a very particular way. And I like the way they handled it, uh, because from Carrie's perspective, this is what he's saying. Um, this is what I'm going to try to achieve. I want to be with my brothers. So um, it's almost like they ended with fulfilling his own dream. Um, that's something that was going to make him happy. And Kevin went in a completely different direction, which was, a new set of brothers, new family, and
Yeah, I
extending
love
that
how the kids are
family.
like, I love how the kids are like, "We'll be your brother's dad." That was
Yeah,
so cute.
yeah,
But yeah, this this is depressing to
it
talk
is.
about. But
It
again,
is.
it's a testament to the movie that it stuck the landing with that devastation at the end. I'm reading up on Real Kevin now. It seems like they now have 4 kids,
I think he had like 18
including
grandchildren or
Kevin
something
and
like that.
David. It says they have 11 grandchildren,
11
and
grandchildren.
according to the movie, they all live together
Okay,
now, which
okay.
is really sweet. But I don't know if that's still accurate. And
Yeah.
again, I saw the quick interview with Kevin at one of the premieres of the movie, and he talked about how proud he was of like the way the movie depicted him and that period of time in his family.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. So overall, what do you give the movie out of five?
I give it 4.5 out of 5 without a doubt.
Yeah,
And
thank
definitely, I
you.
have not seen any of Sean Durkin's other movies, but I'd like to see both what he's done and what he'll bring us next.
Yeah, same here. I actually haven't watched any of his movies either, so I'm very interested to go back and check out some of his catalog.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And
Gal, thank you so much for chatting today about the Iron Claw. It's in theaters right now. People can check it out. All right, Gal, thank you, man. Thank you for joining today.
yes,
We'll chat soon.
always great to chat.